To content creator, let's deal with physics. Okay. So, klaro siya, yes. We're going now to the discussion of kinetic, okay, kinetic fractional force and static fractional force. Okay. So I already differentiated a while ago between fractional kinetic force and fractional static force. Okay, fractional static, driven in a static position, no movement. And then fractional kinetic force is driven when the object will start to move, something or moving, something like that. Okay, this is the formula. What I told you a while ago, okay, if the problem or question doesn't put the value of fractional kinetic coefficient and fractional static coefficient, then you don't have to go with these formulas. Okay, now if the problem will state the word fractional kinetic, blah blah blah, fractional static, blah blah blah, then you have also to apply this. What I mean, if no mention at all which relates to this, apply this. Okay, because you know, if, for example, if we have like this, if I have this object, this one, so the object will remain, or the object at rest will remain at rest unless acted by a net force, right? First law of Isaac Newton, the law of inertia. Now, if this is a block, for example, this is a floor like this, and then there are a lot of forces will be here. If you could just imagine. So do not apply all the forces, right? Apply only which forces are applicable, because actually you can put that all in one sketch. Okay? But that is not the case. Okay? We should not put every forces there unless specified in the problem also. And the usual technique in physics, you let F net equal to 0 always. If the object is not under the influence of velocity, speed, displacement, and motion. Okay? Because during your calculations, you need to follow the second law of Isaac Newton. Then you have to put values in the mass and the acceleration. But if no mention like that, velocity, speed, like that, whatever, do not force yourself to compute for the mass times acceleration. Let that equal to 0. Muna siya ang technique kasagaran, guys. Okay? Put that as 0 always. So makasolve ka sa ibang quantities of forces. Okay? Don't force yourself just to, just to follow everything there. Just assume it to be 0. Especially if not moving. Okay? Something like that. Okay? You will feel the question and the problem later on. Okay? You get the point. Wala siya metabo. Especially if the problem will really states the time, then it's about time. It's about time to include the mass times acceleration, because acceleration involves the time in the denominator. So that's also the case. Okay? Appeal ang time. Time, displacement, and then velocity, speed, acceleration. Something like that. If mentioned in the problem, then do not let the F net or the summation of vertical forces and horizontal forces as 0. Okay? Like that. So, dili sa tanang higayon that you'll be able to put that as 0. Okay? Imo nang ikopya-kopya before the way it is being solved. Right? So, usually, sometimes you have that ability. We pattern that only to the previous sample problems. Like that. But not all to be like that also in another problems to be encountered in the future. You get the point? So you should be smart enough to detect the differences. Okay? You get the point? Things like that. Okay. Question regarding the fractional kinetic fractional force, or fractional kinetic force and fractional static force. A 15 kilogram back rests. Okay, rests. Okay? So the back rests. So what comes on your mind? The back is resting. Okay, meaning to say, initial velocity is 0, distance is 0, no time involved, like that. See? Okay? Okay. What is the minimum vertical force that is required to cause the bags to begin to slide if the fractional static coefficient is 0.35. Like that. So apply equation 2 because it is coefficient of fractional static. Okay, fractional static coefficient. Masapit yun ako nila guys. Fractional static coefficient. This one. Okay. What is the acceleration? So, see? What is the acceleration? Meaning you have to apply the force equals to mass and acceleration in here. Of the system, if a person pushes the bags with a force of 90 Newton, if the fractional kinetic coefficient is 0.20, then apply the equation 1. Because this is kinetic or fractional kinetic coefficient. Masapit pa kung nila ang coefficient. Before I will always say coefficient, but that is coefficient. Okay? Not coefficient. Okay. Now, we have a 15 kilogram bag starting from 0. Okay? So, have in mind that F net will be equal to 0. That is your first theory, right? Okay. F net is equal to 0. Now, you need to discover the forces acting on this 15 kilogram. So, it's mentioned the static, the kinetic, chuba-chuchu. Then, there is a fractional static force here. Fs, and there's also fractional kinetic. Okay, fractional kinetic force. Okay, fractional kinetic force. Fractional, okay, static force and fractional kinetic force. Here, guys, by principle, fractional kinetic force is equal in direction with fractional static force. Okay, they will be going in the same direction. Okay, opposing the applied force, which is the Fa, right? Okay, now, okay, in this equation, guys, you don't need to be extra hot in your solution. Because you need to build everything, because the fractional static force is there, the kinetic friction is there. You have to treat that individually based on the questions written in the problem. Let's say A, B. Ayaw labdain yung ulo kung wala pa dimension sa question. Focus lang sa dito sa mga quantities. Like that. I will tell you later, okay, what to do. Chart. Okay, now go to the FBD diagram. Is our first step in dealing with solving the forces, right? FBD, free body diagram. All forces acting in this 15 kilogram bags. Okay, so here, Jun. Okay, Jun want to push this 15 kilogram to move to the right from left. And this is Jun. What is the force needed of Jun to move this 15 kilogram block going to the right? Like that. So horizontal first. Okay, horizontal first. Okay, what is the minimum horizontal force? See, horizontal is specified. So it's gonna be F net. Okay, F net horizontal forces, which is X, is equal to, so what are the forces engaged in horizontal axis? Okay, we have the applied force, which is positive applied force, right? See? Okay, here. Okay, ganon. And then we have also the negative fractional force, fractional static force, and we have also the negative fractional kinetic force. Okay, now, muna siya ang horizontal forces. Okay, you get the point. Now, in your formulas which relates to fractional, static forces and fractional kinetic forces, there's an involvement of your normal force. Involvement. So, you are forced to get also the free body diagram of forces vertical. Because normal forces are vertical, directed upward. So that's only the connection. Why you need to get the forces vertical is just because it is found out in the formula of your fractional force. Okay? Get the point? Ganon sa summation F net vertical y. Ganon. So upward force is the Fn. Right? And we have also the weight force downward. Weight force downward is equals to the mass times the acceleration due to gravity. Okay. Now upward, there's no other forces acting in the vertical forces here? Nothing, because there's no tension forces engaged in this particular scenario. Okay? If there's tension forces, then bingo, apply it. But there's nothing. Okay? Something like that. So upward force capacitor Fn is minus the weight force downwards, so minus weight, which is equal to the mass times the acceleration due to gravity. Okay, like that. Ganon. So this is your equation 2. Ganon. Equation 2. Now, first question, what is the minimum horizontal force? Okay. Now, hello mga palangga.
The Bluetooth device is ready to pair.
Wala na ko yung microphone. I have to charge this one. Then I have to talk. Can you hear me? Can you hear my voice? Everybody here? Anybody here? Can you hear my voice? Okay. Everybody hears my voice. Okay, now. Okay. In the first assumption, our net force, summation net force is 0. Okay, substitute the 0 values in your both F net x and your F net y, the horizontal and vertical, and solve properly what is being asked, right? It's gonna be like that. But before going further, sorry to mention to this, we have also the original equations here. We need to put equation 2 here, and okay, 3 and 4. Okay, so actually we have 4 equations. 1, 2, 3, 4. So in the degrees of freedom of your calculation, we need also at least 4 equations to be used because we have 4 equations. It will be equal or there will be more equations to be used. That is degrees of freedom. That is DOF in math. Okay? That's different with the FBD because FBD is free body diagram. Okay? But the DOF or degrees of freedom, it has to do something with your solutions and the equations and unknowns to be identified. Okay, what I'm trying to say, your unknowns must be equal to the number of equations and formulas to be used in problem solving. Now, if it is not equal, you rely on the standards, the constants, the tables, and the graphs, but usually under normal circumstances, that would be equality. Okay, you got the point? Or the equations are more than what are the unknowns. So that would be much better, right? Okay. Going back to this equations, equation 1, ganon. So fractional kinetic coefficient times the normal force. Is that given in our problem? Check. Okay, so we have, so force is equals to fractional kinetic coefficient is 20. Coefficient, so 0.20. Okay. 0.20 Fn, equation 1. Ganon. Equation 2, fractional kinetic coefficient is also mentioned, something like that, right? Am I correct? Right. 0.35. So it's gonna be F is equal to 0.35 times the normal force is equal to the equation 2. This is the fractional static, okay? Fractional static, okay? Fractional static force, and this is a fractional kinetic. Be careful with the nomenclature. The nomenclature and the code used in your variable, let's say, be careful also to that, okay? So that you can easily identify somewhere along the way of your calculation, okay? Now, take note for the vertical forces involved, which among them, the equation 3 and 4, it's easy to compute directly. Okay, the horizontal forces acting on the object or the vertical. So it's gonna be obviously the vertical because we have only 2 unknowns here, right? Okay, now we let F net y is equal to 0. So it will become From equation 4 mga palangga. From equation 4. Ganon. So ganon. F net y is equals to 0, so 0 is equals to the normal force in which you don't know. Okay, because you need to know this so that you can substitute in equation 1 and 2, right? So that you can solve what is your fractional static force and fractional kinetic force. So we need this Fn, or your normal force. Now, minus mass. The mass of the object is 15 kilogram, right? Okay. Now, the acceleration due to gravity is 9.81. Okay. Since you equate this to 0, it will become Fn transpose the sign of this thing, the right side, and it will become positive. So 15 times 9.81, this is your normal force mga palangga kung hitad. Okay? How much? Calculator please. Chart. Okay. So I am now very slow, right? So I adjust. No, so 15 times 9.81 is equal to 147.15 newtons. Mga palangga kong hitad. 147.15 newton. So it needs an upward force or a normal force of 147.15 here. So 147.15 in here. Okay? Ganon. Now, substitute that here. You can now obtain equation 1. So 0.20 times this value. What is your fractional, okay, force? Fractional kinetic force. Okay, what's how much? Okay? In this, you should be particular, huh? Maybe it will be interchange problem. You will be wrong. Okay? So 0.20 times 147.15 is equals to, we need 29.43. What's this? 29.43 mga palangga kong hitad. Fractional kinetic force, Newton. Okay, now, what is your fractional static force? So you have 0.35 times normal force, this one also, multiply directly. Okay, so it's gonna be 0.35 times 147.15 is equal to 51.50 mga palangga kong hitad. Okay, so this is 51.50 fractional static force. Okay, fractional static force. Okay, now going back to the equation. Okay, going back to the equation. Okay, ganon. So papasok na nato vertical, tapos nakuha na nato siya. Okay, now we are asking for the A horizontal force, which is the FA, the applied force of Junjun to move the 15 kilogram packs going to the right. Now, we have the FKF, we have the FFS. Okay, we have the fractional static force, we have also the fractional kinetic force. Okay, ganon. Okay, so, saan man mo nang higayon na? Okay, take note, dirita magkaalaman. Why? This is now English. Okay? This is to emphasize you guys that do not be misled in this particular kind of problem. If you are very, very intelligent enough, you go directly to this. Okay? FA minus FFS, in which I write also. I wrote that also, huh? But this is not true in this problem. Because, can you see the problem? It was being divided first. See, the question says like that. A, what is the minimum horizontal force that is required to cause the box to begin to slide if the fractional static coefficient is 0.35? Now, this sentence does not involve yet the fractional kinetic force. Right? But in your solution here, you involve already the totality. Okay? So this is sumubra. Okay? This is anticipation of the overall picture of what's gonna be happening. So this is not correct, but this is correct if we try to put that in totality or in overall. But the question says only, at this point, we're having the fractional static coefficient. What is your horizontal force? So we don't need to include this kinetic force yet. Right? You get the point? Because of the paragraph. It's being cut, right? It's not comma. See? A. What is the minimum horizontal force that is required to cause the box to begin to slide if the coefficient fractional static is 0.35, period. Okay? So it doesn't talk with a fractional kinetic coefficient, right? So stop there and we will remove this fractional kinetic force yet. So muna siya kasaganan sa'yo, okay? Get the point. So akin nakadri. So F net x is equal to 0, so it will become 0 is equal to the force applied of Jun minus the fractional static force. Now, do we have the frictional static force? We have the applied force? Something like that. Investigate or scrutinize quantity per quantity. Something like that. Okay. Applied force in here, nothing. Okay? So I need to put 0 is equals to Fa minus, do we have the fractional static force? We have, because we already computed here, which is equal to 51.50 newtons. So minus 51.50 newton. Okay, now, this is equal to applied force is equal to 51.50 newton. Okay, like that. Okay, so your applied force is 51.50 newton, but take note, this is still the applied force, okay? Needed to push your 15 kilogram box, okay? So, muna na siya answer sa letter A, okay? Basically, your fractional static force will be equal to the applied force so that it will be moved or more than that, okay? Something like that. So take note, what is the value of your fractional static force is 51.50 newton. So it should be equal because the F net is 0. Okay? You get the point mga palangga. Okay. You get the point, mga siya. Now, in your question letter B, ito na yung erase ha. Okay, basta natin. 29.43 nga kuan. Fractional kinetic, ganon-ganon. Okay, fractional kinetic, ilan na siya? 29.43, yan naasad tayo kuan. Fractional static equal to, saan siya? 51.50. Okay? Ganon. Okay. Atong isuwat, itong papason. Okay? Like that. Okay. Papason na. Charot. Okay. Arita sa B nga question. Okay. B nga question. What is the acceleration of the system if a person pushes the box with a force of 90 newton if the fractional kinetic static is equal to 0.20? So this is now another condition. Okay, this is not basing on the totality in which we presented a while ago. This is another, declaration of what is being asked. So acceleration is trying to find out, right? Then going back to the horizontal, because the horizontal forces, because the acceleration is acting on the horizontal forces, not the vertical. So we'll say F net horizontal again, going back, okay, is equal to, okay, here is fractional kinetic force. There's no involvement of static. Is the reverse of the question A. So do not force to put the static here. Things like this, okay? Because if you try to totality this one, okay, we will include all. Okay, but it's not that because the questions doesn't demand us to do that. Okay, something like that. So we have, okay, the applied force. Okay, the applied force is very clear, that is 90 newton. Forget the question A because it doesn't relate to question A already. Okay, so your applied force is 90 newton, positive. Okay, because it is directed to the right. Okay, then minus your fractional kinetic force. Fractional kinetic. Okay, because this is kinetic, right? 0.20. So we will use this 29.43, in which we computed that already. So 90 newton minus 20.43, right? Okay, how much? Like that. So 90 minus 24.33. Okay, 90 minus 20.43 is equals to 69.57 is your net force. 69.57. Okay, Newton is your net force x-axis. Now take note, acceleration is being asked. And this is not yet an acceleration. This is still a force. So apply the second law of Isaac Newton. So F net x is equal to the mass times the acceleration. Okay. F net 69.57 Okay, and your mass of the block is 15 kilogram, and your acceleration is unknown. So acceleration is equal to 6957 divided by 15, right? It's gonna be like that. Dito takwet mga palangga akong hitan. Okay. 69.7 divided by 15 is equals to 4.63 meter per second squared is your acceleration. Okay, 4.63. You get the point? Ganon. 4.63 meter per second squared. Okay? Ano yun siya guys ha? You need to divide. Okay, here. Okay, because in the B, there's no mentioning the static and don't force to put the static. Okay? And then in A also, it's mentioning only the static. Don't mention the kinetic also. It depends on the situation. But the overall, as I told you earlier, this is total clear picture of the entire thing. This is Fx net overall is equals to positive Fa minus frictional force kinetic minus frictional force static. This is really the reality. If you try to put this in a clear picture. But not true because our problems is asking, component to component kasi. Okay? You get the point? Ganon. Okay? Now, if I will revise the question, I will try to have a wild imagination. I will say, what is the total net force of the entire system? Then I will apply this Fs, Fk, naku, maglibo ka namin sa 90 degree. Okay? 90 degree, okay. Kasama yung pag-ataka na, rabag ka 51-50 po degree ari sa permiro. Nanihimo na sa ganun mo siyang applied force. Okay, what you will do here? So, it could have been, it will never be asked in the question. Because there are two misleading parts. We have the applied force in the A, and we have also the applied force in the B question. Okay? Now, if you try just to, in the benefit of the doubt, for example, if it is a problem that has a multiple choices, the question will say like that, then try to add the applied force in A question, applied force in the B question, then substitute it in the overall equation here. Applied force total between the question A and question B minus the fractional kinetic force na nakuha na nato. Okay, we already solved that. Minus the frictional static na we also solved already. And that will be the answer. And try to compare that to the choices. A, B, C, D, E, N. Ang ano mapasok sa banga, then that is the answer. Okay? Ana ra siya. It mapasok sa banga. Meaning to say, if it really fits the choices, then go for that. But I doubt it will never be asked in this way. Only my wild imagination. Okay? Something like that. Because you need to have wild imagination to solve the problem. Right? Get the point? Ganon. Okay. Any questions so far? Okay. If the question will say, guys, to slide if the static coefficient is 0.35 and the kinetic fraction is 0.20, that's the time you will use this overall picture already, directly, without question. But there is a period. Okay? Meaning you have to divide. That's why I told you every time, conjunction and punctuation is very important in problem solving. The comma, the period, like that. Okay, the and, the but, the or, the preposition in your paragraph. It matters a lot, guys, really. Okay, that's why in this case, you don't need to solve in the totality because there's a period already here. Okay? So if the question, if you will revise this as like this, what imagination again? What is the minimum horizontal force that is required to cause the box to begin to slide if the static fractional coefficient is 0.35 and the kinetic, fractional coefficient is also 20? What is the acceleration of the system if a person pushes the box with an additional force of 90? So, ano na siya pagsulti? Additional force of 90 because we can also already solve the applied force at first when Junjun push the box without the condition of 90 Newton. Or, it could have been, dili siya i-mention ang applied force na 90. Okay, makuha na siya po ni mo. Ganon. But, it's not in this case because na po siya tuldok or period ang question. You get the point? So, you should be smart enough to determine how it is being phrased in a sentence. Okay? Ganon. Any questions so far for this fractional static force and fractional kinetic force? Any question? Okay. Now you will say again, so Sir Sotero, what is a fraction? Okay, what is a fraction mga talaga kumitan? So friction is a force that will oppose the movement of any objects through applied force. That's only my own definition based on the formula, not books. Okay? Because if you will understand, you can have your own, you can have your own definition. Okay? As long as it is an opposing force, period. Okay, that is friction already. Or you will reverse that in that way. It's a force that will resist the object to move. That's also friction, because resist means opposing force. So you can, you can vary the words, the terminologies, if you can understand really what it meant. Okay? It doesn't mean to be literal always what's reflected in the book. You need to memorize that entirely. Okay, take note also, because you will forget that after 20 years, after 30 years, after 10 years, if your memorization technique is like that. Okay? You get the point. Ganon. Okay? So if you like this video, you can share this video to anybody else, especially to grade 12 or fourth year high school who study physics, and also first year college. Yeah, first year college. No, second year college, first semester and second semester already studied the physics, right? After taking up chemistry, chemistry is the prerequisite of physics. You cannot take physics without passing your chemistry. General chemistry lectures 1, 2, including the lab. I don't think so also. Yeah, others also have labs, other engineering disciplines. Okay, I'm not really that sure, but for us chemical engineering students, we have laboratories in general chemistry. I don't think so, because I don't have really more friends when I was in college. I'm focusing in my study. Okay, I don't have to talk too much with the, other people like that. Chica, go to the Colon, Cebu City, and watch movies or whatever. I don't have time for that. Okay, my time is devoted to library, home study, family, bonding with the family, singing as my talent that God gave to me, something like that. Okay, so it's gonna be like that. Okay, and aside from the fact also that we are living in a poverty level, also we don't have enough money to go to the city and enjoy with the other barcadas or whatever. So I would rather opt to stay in the library to do my assignments, to study lessons as much as I could. I will be trying to have advanced study, for that I could be able to penetrate new topics in my brain cells. Something like that. Okay, you can share this video to anybody else, and you can click the notification bells for some news updates of the Singer Eternal Voice, and you can also subscribe my YT channel if you want also. Okay guys, thank you so much for supporting my YT channel. Okay, thank you so much. Bye bye everybody. God bless everybody. Stay safe and have a beautiful world. Wow. Nakakaloka.